Please be seated, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the 59th Annual Deborah Morton Convocation Ceremony. My name is Dan McCormick, and I'm the chair of the University of New England's Board of Trustees. On behalf of the entire board, I thank you for joining us as we celebrate and induct our 2021 Deborah Morton Society awardees. Ordinarily, I would preside over this early part of the program, but in the spirit of Deborah Morton, I would like to turn over these duties this morning to my good friend and colleague, Diane Collins-Field. This tassel's gonna... Diane holds not one, but 2 degrees from Westbrook College. The first in merchandising and retailing, and the second in business administration. She has been involved with UNE's Board of Trustees since 2010, beginning as a member of the Westbrook College Alumni Board, and now serving as the board treasurer. She, along with her husband Summer, are also members of UNE's Heritage Society. I know this university holds a very special place in her heart, and she has done so much for it through the years. So at this time, it's my pleasure to hand things over to Diane Collins-Field.
Thank you for those kind words, Dan. And welcome, family, friends, former Deborah Morton Society Award recipients, University of New England students, faculty, professional staff, trustees, and President Herbert. We welcome, and to welcome these 4 women we will honor today, they are Linda Cross Godfrey, Nancy Grant, Susan Hammond, and the Honorable Janet Mills, Governor of Maine. Following the example set by Deborah Morton, these amazing women have made lasting impacts on the state of Maine. They have achieved high distinction in their fields and have dedicated their lives to civic leadership, education, and advocacy. Their good works have inspired the people throughout the state of Maine, and now they will join the ranks of exceptional women celebrated in this time-honored ceremony on this historic campus. Indeed, for some 6 decades now, this campus has honored Maine women of exceptional character and accomplishment with the Deborah Morton Award. As such, I would like to focus our attention briefly on the former Westbrook student and then faculty member after whom this award is named. At a time when social expectation for women were very different than they are today, Deborah Morton was a scholar, a leader, reformer, mentor, teacher, and adventurer who traveled the world and brought back knowledge and experiences which she shared with others, including her appreciative students at Westbrook College. Ms. Morton entered Westbrook Seminary in the fall of 1876 and graduated as valedictorian of her class in 1879. She spent the next few years teaching in her hometown of Round Pond, Maine, before returning and becoming a member of the Westbrook Seminary in 1884. She taught grammar, rhetoric, French, and algebra. In 1885, she became preceptress. For the next 2 decades, she spent her summers overseas, exploring and refining her foreign language skills. Then, in 1917, she took a hiatus from the seminary to more fully engage in the civic life, serving as president of the Women's Literary Union and becoming an active member in the YWCA, War Council for World War I. Eventually, she returned to Westbrook and resumed teaching French. The Deborah Morton Award was established in 1961 to recognize Maine women who have distinguished themselves through their work, public service, and leadership in civic, cultural, or social causes. It is my privilege to serve a society whose namesake has paved the way for women leaders to pursue further education and actively develop their curiosity. It is now my pleasure to introduce Gilda Nardone, a fellow Westbrook College graduate and the chair of the Deborah Morton Society Steering Committee.
Thank you, Diane. I share the pride you feel in this institution and its commitment to celebrating Maine women. It's great pleasure for my fellow steering committee members and me to play the role we do in facilitating each year's ceremony. As we narrow down each year's list of prospective awardees, we're amazed and surprised by the wealth of women leaders spread across the state, all doing amazing things, to improve the lives of their fellow Mainers and improve their communities. I have to think Deborah Morton would be quite proud of the movement she helped create. And I am proud of the fact that we continue to help the young women of today fulfill their educational and professional dreams through the Deborah Morton Endowed Scholarship at UNE. Since its establishment in 1974, this fund has provided more than 80 Maine women with critical financial aid so they can pursue a degree in a healthcare field at UNE. The scholarship is awarded annually to 2 freshman women who come to UNE from Maine high schools. Unlike most scholarships, which are just for 1 year, this scholarship follows them throughout their 4 years at the university. They may major in any of UNE's healthcare fields, pursuing degrees in applied exercise science, athletic training, dental hygiene, health, wellness and occupational studies, nursing, nutrition, pre-pharmacy, and public health. These are essential fields to the health of Maine and to its people, and the women who gain mastery of them during their time on this campus emerge ready to make a difference. It is now my pleasure to turn over the podium to the president of UNE, James D. Herbert.
Thank you very much, Gilda, and thank you, Diane, and Dan as well. So good morning. It is, I think I speak for all of us to say it is such a pleasure to be back together in person, finally. Some of you I've had the pleasure of seeing at other events recently. Many of you I haven't seen now for what seems like, in some ways, an eternity. It seems so long, given that we weren't able to do this event last year. So thank you for being here, and it's really, really nice to see you all again in person. I'd like to begin by thanking the members of the Deborah Morton Society Steering Committee for their hard work. These individuals have spent countless hours each year reviewing the accomplishments of and nominating various awardees who will fulfill the exacting standards set by the Society's guidelines. They are Ellie Baker, Brenda Guerin, Susan Carlisle, Gilda Nardone, Peggy Rotundo, Patricia Ryan, Barbara Trafton, and Patsy Wiggins. Ladies, please stand so we may acknowledge you. Thank you all so much for all that you do on behalf of the Society and Maine women and UNE. Over the past 60 years, the Deborah Morton Award has been presented to more than 200 Maine women. Many of our past recipients are here today to help us welcome this year's inductees. You'll see them amongst you all dressed up in regalia, and at this time, I'd like to ask members of the Deborah Morton Society to please rise and be recognized. Thank you. I'd also like to take a moment to reflect on the life of a friend who's passed away since we last gathered in 2019. The Deborah Morton Society lost member Gerda Haas, who has left us, but our memories of her will live on. Please join me in observing a moment of silence to remember Gerda. Thank you. It's hard to believe it's been more than 2 years since we last gathered in June of 2019. In some ways, as I said, it seems like only yesterday, but in other ways, it seems like an eternity, much longer than 2 years. We've all done our best to remain grounded and to face whatever challenges the pandemic has thrown our way. We've also all had to make many sacrifices, altering our regular routines and traditions to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe. Sadly, last year we were unable to welcome our Deborah Morton Society members back to campus or to induct a new group of Maine women leaders into this exclusive society. And this was a great loss felt by all of us, and including me personally. This event is one of our annual highlights at UNE. We're just so proud to have so many inspirational leaders like Deborah Morton as part of our institutional history. Indeed, Ms. Morton's bold spirit inspires us to continue in our mission of preparing the next generation of Maine leaders, and that includes especially Maine women leaders. The message we strive to project to students of all backgrounds is that we in UNE are inclusive. If they are hungry to learn, there is a place for them on our campus. Once here, we will instill in them the knowledge and skills to play essential roles in society so that they may confront some of our greatest challenges and improve people's lives along the way. Inspired by this call to service, we open our arms each fall to many first-generation college students who arrive eager to learn and grow to do their part in the world. This commitment to inclusivity has deep historic roots. In Portland, those roots trace themselves all the way back to 1831, when Westbrook Seminary opened its doors and began admitting women to the very grounds where we are gathered this morning. Later, Westbrook College took up the mantle of educating and empowering women on this campus. In an era when American society tried to define women and limit what they could do and who they could be, women filled these halls. They studied diligently and they flourished, just as the young women of UNE do today. We're fortunate here in Maine to have such a proud tradition of women leaders. The Deborah Morton Society is one important way that UNE honors them. The university's many women leaders, and indeed we have many, in fact I think you'd be hard-pressed to find another campus outside of a women's-only college that has as many senior women leaders as we have at UNE. The one way that we honor these many women on our faculty administration is to enhance their sense of identity on campus. The amazing work of our women students and graduates that they do on campus and off campus extends our mission throughout the state. At this time, I'd like to turn our attention to the 4 remarkable women we've gathered to honor today. I've asked members of the Board of Trustees to assist in sharing their names. Our first trustee to do so is Fran Gerard. Fran?
Thank you, James. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of the University of New England, it is my pleasure to introduce our first Deborah Morton Award recipient of the day, Linda Cross Godfrey. Unfortunately, Linda could not be with us today, but she has provided her acceptance remarks in the form of a video that will play after President Herbert details her achievements.
Thank you, Fran. Linda Cross Godfrey has lived in Down East Maine for 30 years, bringing a special joy to her work as a creative educator with interests in leadership, community development, and biomimicry. Her primary business, the Atlantic Leadership Center in Eastport, produces custom design presentations, retreats, seminars, and institutes. Ms. Godfrey's professional roles have included facilitating the Washington County Leadership Institute, assistant director within the University of Maine's Division of Lifelong Learning, coordinator of Healing Wind Community Wellness Program at Pleasant Point, lead coordinator of the Save Passamaquoddy Bay Three-Nation Alliance, and 25 years as producer of Rhodes Scholar Summer Programs based on the Roosevelts on Campobello Island. Her volunteer roles in Maine have included positions at the Washington County Fund of Maine's Community Foundation, Eastport Healthcare, Cobscook Bay Resource Center, hospice training programs, and, as if that's not enough, as a Sunday school teacher. Ms. Godfrey is also an owner-partner in 2 Eastport businesses, The Commons, which Yankee Magazine designated a destination gallery, and Dirigamis LLC, focused on a historic preservation project. The Commons received the 2011 Directors Award from the Maine Office of Tourism for being a spark that started the restoration of historic downtown Eastport. And it also received, in 2018, Maine Women's Fund Visionary Leaders Award. Please join me in honoring Linda Cross Godfrey.
Good morning. I am pleased and proud to be part of the ceremony today to honor Deborah Morton for her leadership, for her academic excellence, and for her character, and to be with you as part of this time. I am a person who likes small things, small words, deeds, places, creatures, stories, everything. And I'm going to start with a small combination of words, but very important. Thank you. Thank you first to Patsy Wiggins, who nominated me for this award, who I came to know in 1998 when she came to Machias to interview across the internet the nominees for governor that year. And she came to Machias, to Washington County. Thank you to the selection team who received the nominations and made their choices. There were many choices, and I am honored that you chose me to be one of those people. To the Board of Trustees, especially Fran Gerard, who you just heard from, and whose story, as I studied who she was a fascinating one about creative development and philanthropy. Thank you. To Dr. Herbert, who, when I started reading and looking through and learning more about the University of New England, came across your slogan, Ardor of Light. And as I read your 10-year strategic plan, I see that Dr. Herbert is leading you on an ardor of light. By the way, I had to look up the word ardor. Good word, small word. Thanks to the young women who have already excelled so that they are being honored here today and are models for all other young women, and also to your young Sarah Daniels in your development office, who has masterminded all of us getting to the right place in the right time, wherever we may be. We are today at the Edge in Eastport, in the Commons, a 17-year-old woman-owned business who 17 years ago had 6 partners, 3 of who have gone on to another place. They were in their 80s and 90s when we started. The 3 of us are here now, and we are happy to be on the edge of Passamaquoddy Bay, looking across to Campobello Island, knowing that the spirit of Eleanor Roosevelt still lingers there, as does her quote, "I became a woman on Campobello Island." And now to just honor some little books that are part of my life. Character Building, Thought, Power, a book that I think Deborah Morton would find very interesting, because big topic for a little book. And on page 2, it tells us what we need to know simply. Thought is the force underlying all. And what do we mean by this? Simply this: your every act, your every conscious act is preceded by a thought. Your dominating thoughts determine your dominating actions. The acts repeated crystallize themselves into the habit. The habit becomes your character becomes your destiny. Small but mighty. And I was very happy to bring today probably the most small important sentence that anyone ever said to me and to my husband Bob. We used to come over the years to visit Maine, and one year in 1988 when we came, Margaret J. Smith would always write, and she and her wonderful staff would always write a letter. And here is this very short but very critical letter for us. Dear Linda and Bob, it was a joy to have you. I hope you thought the trip was worthwhile. And then she says, I hope you will come from time to time until you come to stay. That was a small but profound sentence that now, because of being invited by Margaret J. Smith, of course, we have come and are here for 31 years. We have had some wonderful days here, and this one will go down as one of the best, to be honored by the Deborah Morton Society at the University of New England with these other 3 marvelous women, with all the women on your long membership list. Thank you very much.
What inspiring remarks. At this time, I call upon UNE trustee Story Landis to present our next Deborah Morton Award candidate. Story?
So it's my great pleasure, on behalf of the Board of Trustees of the University of New England, to present 2021 Deborah Morton Society Award recipient, Nancy Grant. Thank you.
Nancy Grant discovered her calling in life almost by accident. In the year 2000, she asked her town's select board and staff for their help in addressing the safety hazards facing residents walking or biking on North Yarmouth's Main Street. 6 years later, her energy, persistence, and resourcefulness resulted in a completely rebuilt 2-mile section of the road with sidewalks and paved bike shoulders. This experience led her to a career fulfilling her passion for making Maine a better and safer place to walk and to bike. From 2011 to 2017, Ms. Grant served as Executive Director for the Bicycle Coalition of Maine, a statewide nonprofit committed to improving access to biking and walking in Maine. During her tenure, the coalition started Bike Maine, an annual 8-day bike touring event developed to promote Maine as a bicycling destination and to use cycling as an economic development tool for local communities. The Community Spokes Program, a statewide training program for local bicycle and pedestrian advocates, and Bikes for All Mainers, an educational and Earn a Bike program for under-resourced Mainers. In addition, Ms. Grant served on the state's Maine Trail Advisory Committee from 2011 to 2021 and worked for Portland Trails from 2018 until her recent retirement in June. She is also the chair of the Active Transportation Committee of Friends of Woodford's Corner. In this position and in other volunteer positions, she continues her pursuit of making walking and biking safe and accessible. And by the way, she biked here to the ceremony today. I saw her out there on her bike. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating Nancy Grant.
Great. Oh, okay. Guess I could take my mask off.
Absolutely. There you go.
Thank you and good morning on this absolutely gorgeous Maine morning. Thank you to President Herbert, the UNE Board of Trustees, and everyone involved with organizing today's event. I'm honored to be receiving this award today and to be joining the larger Deborah Morton Society of Inspiring Women. Thank you also to my loyal and loving friends and relatives that are here today, physically or in spirit. Each of you has been an important mentor, advisor, and/or cheerleader for me, and that has made all the difference. I want to especially call out Barbara Trafton, who nominated me for the Deborah Morton Award, and in so doing has given our issue of active transportation, which is transportation by bike, foot, or transit, some additional attention. And finally, I want to acknowledge everyone on the various teams I have been a part of on some aspect of bicycle, pedestrian, or trails advocacy. Thanks to your commitment and abilities, we shared the leadership, just like a strong peloton, and as a result, we were able to go faster and further. Since that long ago day in November 2019, when the Deborah Morton Society contacted me about this award, and I was actually out of state at a biking event at the time, I've thought a lot about my 20-plus year journey in the bicycle pedestrian advocacy world and how I ended up here. As Story said, it started in 1998 when I moved from the suburban town of Cumberland to the more rural town of North Yarmouth. On my second day in my new town, I led my 10-year-old daughter and her 3 friends on the 2-mile bike ride up to Little League practice. That was probably the most harrowing bike ride of my life. The road was narrow, the shoulders were full of thick sand, and there were blind hills and turns. My town of only 3,000 people had no law enforcement, so cars were flying by us way above the speed limit. I was terrified that we would all be hit by a car and counted my lucky stars when we arrived unscathed. Even though that ride was short, the terror I felt lingered over the next few weeks, and my questions mounted. Why wasn't there a sidewalk or at least a paved shoulder on our main street? Why wasn't there a safe way for school kids to travel on their own, especially to school? Why did the Public Works Department seem to put all their resources into car travel and not consider those who couldn't drive? Why does our transportation system revolve around single occupancy vehicles when they create so many problems? It seemed obvious to me that a sidewalk was the simple solution. But as I entered the public process of advocating for them, I learned that change would require a lot of hard work. At the time, I was a public school teacher and busy young mother of 2 and had no idea of what I didn't know. I, like most people, used our transportation system daily, but never thought about why it was the way it was. I had never really thought about who makes the decisions about our roads and how we pay for transportation. Over the years, I learned that everything about our transportation system really couldn't be more complicated. At the same time, since transportation is intertwined with and impacts so many other aspects of our life, I also learned that changing our transportation system is an opportunity to address many of our serious problems. Climate is an obvious example. We are facing an urgency for solutions to limit the devastating impacts of climate change. In Maine, 54% of our carbon emissions come from transportation. Of that 54%, 59% comes from passenger vehicles. And half of our trips in the US are 3 miles or less. Imagine if we constructed a people-centered transportation network of safe and inviting walking and biking paths for all our short trips. What if you could safely and easily walk or bike to school, to your local variety store, or favorite coffee place, to the bus station or post office? Imagine how much less you'd be driving, and how we could collectively reduce our carbon footprint if we improved the safety and accessibility of biking and walking options. The issue of equity and inclusion is another area that active transportation can impact. Our current transportation system assumes you own a car and can drive. It is inaccessible to those who don't or can't drive cars. In Maine, that is 24% of our population and includes children, senior citizens, people with disabilities, and people who can't afford cars. Car ownership is expensive, more than $9,000 a year. In contrast, the cost of operating a bike is about $300 a year. Average Americans currently spend more on transportation, 16% of their household budget, than on food or health care. Making it safer and easier to walk or bike is a matter of fairness. Active transportation balances mobility and affordability. Back to North Yarmouth. It took lots of hard work and 6 years to get our 2 miles of sidewalks and paved shoulders built. During that process, I had more questions. Why would a town councilor vote against our town paying $38,000 for a huge road improvement project when the state was willing to pay $2.6 million? Why do we give up huge parcels of valuable land so cars can park there for 8+ hours but don't want to pay for sidewalks? If the cost of bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure was so much cheaper than that for motor vehicles, why do we spend so little on it? Why did it take so long to solve this obvious transportation problem? Despite the project being so much harder than I ever could imagine, I'm grateful to have accidentally taken that turn. What started as a single and small community project became a much bigger cause for me. That terrifying bike ride with my daughter ended up expanding my world in so many ways and leading to a job where they actually paid me to make Maine better and safer for biking and walking. I believe active transportation is a win-win solution, good for our environment, our health, and our communities. Forward-thinking cities and countries agree and are investing increasing resources into active transportation and addressing some of the problems at the same time. Furthermore, young people, our future decision makers, are demanding these changes and leading the way. This gives me hope. I figured out that Deborah Morton was born exactly 100 years before me. Still, as an independent thinker and leader, I suspect that she was an early bicycle rider. Susan B. Anthony, the women's rights activist, said in 1896, "Bicycling has done more to emancipate women than anything else in the world. It gives women a feeling of freedom and self-reliance." The bicycle has endured because of the freedom, self-reliance, and joy that it still provides 150 years after it was invented, but also because of its simultaneous simplicity and genius. I believe that it can and will play a much bigger role in our future and be part of the solutions we so desperately are seeking. Bicycle and pedestrian advocates refer to women as indicator species. When we see high numbers of women biking in a specific location, that indicates that the bike infrastructure is safe there. Towns and cities that have created safe, accessible, and enjoyable bicycle infrastructure enjoy much higher use by women. Otherwise, the few cyclists we see on the roads are testosterone-loaded, fearless young men. Let's hope that in the near future, we will invest much more in truly safe and accessible biking and walking, and that we will see all of us, especially women, not only enjoying the healthy way to commute, but also helping to address climate, equity, and public health issues. And one last thought. Please don't worry if this feels beyond your collective physical ability. We have a new tool for jump-starting our movement, e-bikes. Thank you.
Wow. So thank you, Nancy. I'm inspired. I want to go get on my bike. I really do. I want to go. And I will not make any comments about whether I might be one of those testosterone-laden people riding on the side of the road, although I'm not young. You did say young, so, I guess that doesn't count. But that was very inspiring. Thank you so much. I now call upon Marge Kilkelly to present our next Deborah Morton Award candidate.
Good morning. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of the University of New England, it is my honor and pleasure to present 2021 Deborah Morton Society Award recipient, Susan Hammond. Thank you.
Susan Hammond is the recently retired Executive Director of Four Directions Development Corporation, a native-governed community development financial institution that serves the 4 tribes of Maine. As one of its founders, Ms. Hammond has been involved with the FDDC since 2000. A Penobscot Nation tribal member, Ms. Hammond is well-connected in both the Native American and non-Native communities. Prior to Four Directions, she worked for the Penobscot tribe for 10 years in various positions, including as the Vocational Education Coordinator for the Economic Development Department, as Financial Manager for the Health Department, and as Director of the Tribal Housing Authority. She also served on the Penobscot Nation's Tribal Council from 1996 to 2004 and served as President of the Board of the Alnamac Corporation, the parent company of Olaman Industries, which is a tribally affiliated plastic injection molding company. In 2003, Ms. Hammond received the Maine Small Business Association's Minority Small Business Advocate of the Year Award. She was the first recipient of the Visionary Leader Award from the Opportunity Finance Network, Owista Corporation, in 2006, and in 2010, she received the Circle of Honor Award from the Opportunity Finance Network, Owista Corporation. Please join me in congratulating Susan Hammond. You get a photo?
Thank you, President Herbert, for your kind introduction, and thank you to Gilda Nardoni, Chair of the Deborah Morton Society Steering Committee. Thank you to the Board of Trustees, Chair Dan McCormick, Board of Trustees Chair Treasurer Diane Collins-Field, and other trustees, UNE students, fellow awardees, Nancy, Linda, Governor Mills, and family and friends. I am humbled and honored to be here today. Kwe kwe, hello and good morning. As mentioned in my introduction, I am a citizen of the Penobscot Indian Nation, and I am the daughter of James and June Banks Sanborn, both Penobscot Nation citizens, and a member of the Turtle Clan. I am sister to 3 brothers, James, Craig, David, and my sister Valerie. I am a proud mother of 2, Stephanie and Joe, and privileged grandmother of 7 wonderful grandkids, Macy, Elizabeth, Grace, Lauren, Sophie, Luke, and Caleb. I live in the great city of Bangor, Maine, and many thanks to Susan Carlisle on the steering committee. Thank you, Susan, for your support and encouragement. I was born shortly after the bridge to Penobscot's Indian Island was erected, and though I hadn't been conscious of it, that bridge is a fitting metaphor of my work. I was born in Washington, D.C., and grew up all over the U.S. and in Japan as our family followed my father's career in the Air Force. Throughout my youth, my mother shared stories of growing up on Indian Island, the heart of the Penobscot homeland. Her tales of this special place were filled with fun, laughter, family, community, pride, and joy, but also heavily weighted with prejudice and discrimination. Our visits to the island meant time with relatives and enjoying our native pageants and community days and celebrating our native heritage and culture. Despite our nomadic military lifestyle, my mother's connectedness to her community created a sense in me that Indian Island was home, and I knew I would return to that island in the river, and I did. After graduating from the University of Maine, I found my first professional job assisting with economic development for the Penobscot Nation government. And over the 10 years, I have held a series of evolving leadership positions there, ending as the director of the housing department. As mentioned, I also had the honor of serving on the tribal council for 8 years. And for a time, as I raised my children, I lived in a house on Indian Island owned by the housing department, which I later would manage. Living in the community and working for my tribe opened my eyes to the challenges in our community and to the deep systemic changes needed. I was especially frustrated with the state of our homes. Too many were built with substandard materials, were overcrowded, needed substantial repairs, or had low value and couldn't be sold. Yet the resources to help Penobscot families fix, construct, or sell their homes were in short supply, and to some non-existent. Capital for affordable housing simply wasn't flowing onto the reservation. A solution came with the arrival of a new type of organization that was gaining attention in Indian country: Native Community Development Financial Institutions, which use loans and knowledge building to create jobs, housing, community facilities, and tribal communities. And they are bridges that straddle conventional capital markets and marginalized people and places. A 2001 report of the Native American Lending Study by the U.S. Department of the Treasury drew attention to the credit and capital access issues in Native communities nationwide and led to the establishment of the Native CDFI Movement program to provide financing, capital, and capacity building dollars to the fledgling field. Seeing an opportunity, a group of Penobscot tribal leaders, myself included, set out to form a Native CDFI to serve our people. In March of 2001, I, along with other leaders, co-founded Four Directions Development Corporation, one of only 10 Native CDFIs in the country at the time. And now there are almost 70. Four Directions' mission was and remains to improve the social and economic conditions of the Wabanaki tribes in Maine, the Maliseet, Micmac, Passamaquoddy, and Penobscot, through education and investment in affordable housing, tribal ventures, and Native entrepreneurship. I was hired as Four Directions' first executive director in November of 2001, and I've since devoted myself to the organization and its mission. At my core is a calling to address the needs and aspirations of the Penobscot and all Wabanaki tribes. My job involved typical executive director responsibilities, but my central task is relational. I build and maintain bridges across many channels. Four Directions, as I mentioned, was initially conceived as a means to attend to the housing challenge faced by members of the Penobscot Nation. For it was in 2000 that the tribe had a poverty rate of 24% and an unemployment rate of 13%. And it was also in the late 1990s that federal housing resources for Native Americans were shrinking while housing pressures were becoming more acute. A tribal-wide housing needs assessment conducted in 2000 by the Penobscot Housing Department, while I was the housing director, confirmed the poor quality of housing available to tribal members. In addition, waiting lists for subsidized units would typically exceed 24 months, with some families waiting as long as 5 years for an affordable and adequate place to live in the Penobscot Nation community. Prior to the creation of Four Directions, housing financing options for Maine tribal members were minimal. Historic land laws unique to tribal lands, most notably restraint on alienation deed restrictions, prevent certain lands from use as collateral or for foreclosure by financial institutions. These restrictions exaggerated the already limited opportunities for home ownership and home improvement. and due to this limited access to private capital markets, many tribal members were unable to develop positive credit histories. The value of homes was restricted to what a family could access for a personal loan, and at that time it was about $20,000. Home improvement loans were non-existent. Tribal members used credit cards, subprime loans, or precious savings to pay for renovations. Huge systemic barriers have maintained poverty throughout Indian country. Many Native Americans in Maine were denied access to the single most effective way Americans build wealth, home ownership. Within a year after establishing Four Directions and working with other tribal leaders of the organization, we quickly expanded to include the other 3 tribes, as the same conditions and lack of access to capital were existing in their communities as well. Four Directions connects the Wabanaki communities to the non-Native financial world, cultivating allies among banks, philanthropists, faith-based groups, socially responsible investors, government agencies, nonprofits, and other CDFIs. I endeavor to bring an indigenous perspective to non-Native entities and our strategic partners and on those whose boards I sit, including the Maine Community Foundation, CEI, a large Maine CDFI, and Eastern Maine Development Corporation, a regional economic developer. Resources, skills, and insights from these experiences flow through me to my communities. As a Penobscot woman, I carry my tribe's culture to leadership roles with Owista Corporation and the Native CDFI Network, both national Native American community organizations. Four Directions now has a 20-year track record as a pioneering lender and a culturally sensitive financial educator that promotes homeownership, asset building, and financial health. Since inception, we've closed over $18 million in home, consumer, and small business loans to 250-plus Wabanaki families, served well over 1,000 individuals with credit coaching, financial capability training, and homeownership education, and we have financed the construction and rehab of 84 affordable residences for tribal elders and low-income families, and helped almost 900 Wabanaki tax filers obtain $465,000 in earned income tax credits. As Four Directions' longtime leader, I am proud of our accomplishments, yet I recognize there is still much work to be done to foster healthier, more vibrant Wabanaki communities. I believe Four Directions is essential to this future. As a Native CDFI, we are a tool of empowerment. Through our financial products, financial education and counseling services, and tribal advisory services, we make individuals, families, our communities, and tribes stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their lives and claiming their rights. It is my desire to continue to deliver the message and create greater awareness, locally, regionally, and nationally, of the significance of Native CDFIs and Four Directions in particular, that we are more than lenders. We are nation-building community institutions that produce concrete benefits that change lives and advance tribal sovereignty and are worthy of recognition and support. Wole Wani, thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan, for your very inspiring remarks. And you now join another Donna Loring, another Penobscot tribal elder who has deep ties to UNE. And I can say that my wife Lynn and I have spent some time on Indian Island and met with Kirk Francis and Chief Francis and others there, and it's a very inspiring place. It meant a lot to us, and your work means a lot to our entire state, not just the Wabanaki people. Thank you so much for everything you do. I now call upon Trustee Brenda Guerin to present our fourth and final Deborah Morton Award candidate.
Good morning, friends. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of the University of New England. It's my pleasure to announce our next Deborah Morton Award recipient, Maine Governor Janet Trafton Mills. Because Governor Mills had a previous engagement in Augusta this morning, we thought she would be unable to attend the ceremony, but it turns out she is here, and we are glad to welcome her.
It's not every day that I get to boss the governor around and tell her where to go sit and everything, so I'm just going to soak that up for a second. So, Janet Trafton Mills was sworn in as the 75th governor of Maine on January 2nd, 2019. She's the first woman governor of Maine. In her historic victory, she earned more votes than any governor in state history, and was the first governor since 1966 to win a majority of the vote for her first term. Governor Mills was born and raised in Farmington, where she still proudly lives today. After first entering public service as an assistant attorney general, she was later elected district attorney for Androscoggin, Franklin, and Oxford counties, making her the first woman to be elected as a district attorney in New England. In that role, she saw firsthand how the criminal justice system frequently failed victims of domestic violence. Frustrated by the legislature's failure to act, she co-founded the Maine Women's Lobby to advocate for battered and abused women, and she won election to the Maine House of Representatives in 2002. Ms. Mills next served as the Attorney General of Maine, making her the first and only woman to hold that job. As Attorney General, she made it her mission to stand up to those who tried to exploit Maine people, from fighting dishonest mortgage lending companies to helping Maine people in their homes, to helping keep Maine people in their homes, to fighting Big Pharma for its role in creating the opioid crisis, to fighting to protect health care coverage for young adults. As governor, she's working to ensure that every Mainer has affordable, high-quality health care, that Maine has a strong economy with good-paying jobs throughout the state, that every Maine child has access to a world-class education, and that Maine is a place where families can put down roots and raise their kids. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating Maine Governor Janet Mills.
Wow.
And here's your,
Oh,
you want to
thank
can we
you
get a
so
picture?
much.
Stand over to the side.
What's that?
We're all bossing you around today.
Thank you. We want to do a video?
Well, we can, but
Oh, it's all right. Thank you so much, President Herbert. It's an honor to be here for this occasion. I am pleased to be joining such a distinguished group of women in particular, and the group today, Susan, Linda, Nancy, everyone. So delighted to join you. And I'm sorry I'm not dressed for the occasion. I left my regalia at the Blaine House. Wouldn't have fit the previous occasion. So, I want to congratulate my fellow inductees, Linda Godfrey, Susan Hammond, and Nancy Grant, first of all. Thank you for your many contributions to the state of Maine. Throughout our history, in education, sciences, and the environment, through government and the economy, the arts, public discourse, women with courage, strength, and fortitude have made Maine the state we all know and love. Many of those women have received this same honor. Photographers like Bernice Abbott and Judith Glickman Lauder, artists like Kate Chappell and Dolph Ipker, jurists like Harriet Henry, Carolyn Doobie Glassman, Peggy Kravchuk, journalists like Helen Sloan Dudman, Holocaust survivors like Gerda Haas and Judith Magyar Isaacson, and other Jewish leaders like Rosalind Bernstein, educators like Theo Calico and Billy Gammon, whom I was pleased to know as well, financial leaders like Jean Dean,
Civic leaders like Sherry Huber and Pat Collins. These are just some of the 180 members of the Deborah Morton Society, so many of whom have shaped our state. As you know, I come from Western Maine, a place that's no stranger to women who do unusual and unexpected things. On days like today, I think of strong women like Fly Rod Crosby, who more than 100 years ago became the first registered Maine guide. Not just the first woman guide, the first Maine registered guide. And she was a popular figure at the World's Fair in New York City. She daringly wore skirts that showed her ankles. God forbid. I think, too, of Carrie Stevens from Upper Dam near Rangeley, who created the Gray Ghost streamer fly and 150 other patterns which brought her national fame. Of course, Cornelia Fly Rod Crosby also guided people like Teddy Roosevelt into the woods and waters of Maine. I think about Isabel Greenwood from Farmington, Maine, who is a staunch women's rights advocate whose candle unfortunately shone under a barrel because her writing, her intelligence, and her determination was always overshadowed by her more prominent husband, Chester Greenwood, who, as you know, was the inventor of the earmuffs and wide-bottom kettles and spring steel rakes and matchbooks with advertising, among many other things. So he stole the show, but she was pretty smart herself. And of course, I think of Margaret Chase Smith, and another inductee of the Deborah Morton Society, who for many years was the only woman to have been elected to both houses of Congress, too many years, and who in her first Senate election was opposed by 3 prominent men, including 2 wealthy former governors, whom she soundly defeated by a margin of 3-1. Yeah. I learned the values of Yankee independence and courage and a little bit of stubborn self-reliance from these women and their histories. I think about them often, and I think about the twists and turns that they navigated to get to where they needed to go. I know a little something about a life with twists and turns, as my family would tell you. After all, when I was young, nobody ever said, oh, she should be governor of the state of Maine someday. No, that was not in anybody's minds. But now I'm honored, so honored, to serve as the first woman governor of the great state of Maine, and the first governor from Franklin County, of course. But for all of the women who came before me, and for all those who come after, like my own daughters and granddaughters, I humbly accept this recognition, and I thank you all for continuing to celebrate the many contributions of Maine women to our state throughout history. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Governor Mills. And awardees, all awardees, please accept my most sincere congratulations on your membership in the Deborah Morton Society. On behalf of the UNE Board of Trustees, the Deborah Morton Society Steering Committee, and the entire community, I'd like to welcome you to the UNE family. Today's ceremony has been, as always, an important reminder of the incredible talent and power embodied in Maine women. We're lucky to have so many women like you working so hard for the people of our state. Thank you for all that you do. And now to everyone in attendance, I hope you'll stay with us for the luncheon, which will begin in the back of this room just after the platform party leaves the stage. Thank you all for joining us today and celebrating these 4 distinguished women and the legacy of Deborah Morton. Thank you so much.